God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Welcome. This is the I Don't Belong Here show, and I am your host, Samantha Benigno. I am a behavioral scientist, a career psychotherapist, a sixth-year PhD candidate in clinical psychology, a master's level psychologist and counselor, and I am here breaking down the Justice for John O'Keefe case. Now, it is a very ungodly hour in the morning right now. And the reason that I am up screaming into this microphone at this ungodly hour is because of something that I discovered on my way up to Connecticut last night. Because I'm like outraged and don't know what else to do with myself while I'm driving up the Merritt Parkway. This sucks. You can't see me at all. As many of you know, the one smoking gun that the O'Keefe family and friends of John O'Keefe point to as the undeniable evidence of Karen Read's guilt is the telematics data.
We can get specifically into it, like in terms of like the car data and stuff like, So the Lexus, her Lexus had tech stream data on it, and which these ARCA guys did not even look at. They're experts in this tech stream data. It's on their website saying this is what we do. It's the most, and they didn't bother looking at it. Mm-hmm. So we don't know what their questions. Right? We can get into that too, but we don't know what they were actually looking for, if they decided what they decided without looking for it. But that tech stream data, if you follow the timeline there's about 5 or 6 minutes between the time, close to 5. I mean, it depends on if it's 4:59 or whatever, right? So there's about 5 minutes there between when we believe the accident happened and when the Wi-Fi connected. Now, the Wi-Fi can connect outside the house. You can pull in the driveway and that Wi-Fi can connect. It doesn't have to be I'm sitting in front of the router, you know what I mean? It just can. So,
And you might remember from Hank Brennan's opening statements, data.
After an argument with the defendant, that argument, that anger fueled by heavy intoxication, you will learn from the science and data as he stood by the side of the road, the defendant in her SUV drove away. She drove at least 35 feet away. The argument was over. It had ended. But then she stopped. She stopped. She put the Lexus into neutral. And she waited for 2 seconds. And the facts and the science and data will tell you that despite the fact the argument was over, she then put the Lexus into reverse, put her foot on the gas pedal, and began to press, not 25%, not 50%, up to 75% acceleration. There was a light dusting of snow. The Lexus tire spun backwards. She went backwards at least 70 feet. She clipped John O'Keefe. He fell backwards, hit his head, broke his skull, and there he lay at the corner of Fairview Road.
So for a while now, I have been thinking, all right, I got to go back and look much more closely at the telematics. Not that I didn't pay close attention to DeSogra's testimony during the beginning of the defense's case in chief in the Karen Read case, nor was I completely out to lunch during Judson Welcher's testimony and Shannon Burgess's testimony. It's just that as the trial was going on, so much happened so fast that you just didn't have time to really sit and process what was happening. I think, if I'm not mistaken, very soon after DeSogra was Ms. Dever.
Did you have a conversation with anybody in the commissioner's office at Boston Police Department?
Not about anything malicious.
I didn't use the word malicious. Why do you say malicious? Mr. Cox told you, number one, the Boston Police Department supports you, and Officer Dever, do the right thing.
So he said my name correctly. He said Dever, and
that's my mistake. Let's see. Like, you want me to repeat the question so I get
So,
right?
Mr. Jackson, let's go ahead and answer, please.
yes, and he said nothing with the intent of guiding me one way or the
I didn't ask you
other.
what his intent was, madam. I asked you what he said to you. What were his words to you?
That he supports me.
And
Just wanted me to tell the truth up here.
And his words were, do the right thing, correct?
I don't recall.
Obviously, that quickly stole the show. And with Judson Welcher, the obvious play with paint test stole the show there. Just when you thought it couldn't possibly get any worse for the Commonwealth, they introduced their rock star accident reconstructionist, Dr. Judd Welcher.
Question, when you're engaging in these demonstrations, are you attempting to try to show exactly how Mr. O'Keefe was struck?
No. So we don't know exactly how he was.
I'm sorry. Was that the sound of the Commonwealth's expert accident reconstructionist just telling you that they don't know how John O'Keefe got his injuries? And so we were all very eager to move away from Judd Welcher. So the actual details of the telematics data was easy to kind of overlook. Now, if you've been watching my videos for a while, you know that before the second trial, I was obsessed with key cycles. A key cycle simply means when a car is turned on, not turned on all the way, but just when it's turned on. Now, by definition, when the car's ignition turns on, so when the engine is started, that is, by default, also a key cycle. So you can have key cycles without ignition cycles, but you can't have ignition cycles without key cycles. Cars track every single key cycle, okay, from the time that they are first started up. And during the second trial, Ms. Judge Bev did everything she could to keep Alessi from being able to explore that topic the way that the defense had in the last trial with their cross-examination of Trooper Joseph Paul.
So you are aware that the Commonwealth had maintained up into your firm's engagement that...
Are you saying there's no basis for the question?
Yes,
All right, I'm going to allow the question and I'll hear it.
You are aware that the Commonwealth has maintained up until your engagement in September of 2024 that all text stream events associated with key cycles 1164, 1165, and 1167 occurred while the Lexus was in the custody of the Massachusetts State Police at the Canton Police Department.
Okay.
So the objection sustained. You need a foundation, Mr. Alessi.
You're aware, and you've reviewed, by the way, Trooper Paul's reports, correct?
I have.
There were two reports of Trooper Paul. There was his original CARS report and then a supplemental report that were listed in the documents you reviewed. Do you recall that?
I don't recall that, but I'll take your word for it.
I don't want you to have to take my word. Do you recall, sir,
I
that
don't.
there were do you recall that there was a report of Trooper Paul?
Yes.
Okay, and you read that report, I assume, sir?
I did.
And it would be important for you to read that report and read it carefully because it addressed the subject matter that you were addressing, correct?
No. I did my own independent analysis. As a matter of fact, it'd probably be more important that I don't do that to avoid confirmational bias.
But you did read Trooper Paul's report,
Of
correct?
course.
So, you therefore aware that the Commonwealth has maintained up into your engagement...
Yeah, I'm going to see a sidebar on this.
Who can ever forget that? But because of that, there was this big empty space and a lot of uncertainty about what the key cycle data actually showed. That is until last night.
What we see is, and this is noted in the report too, that when the vehicle gets into the Canton Police Department after this event, you can see the mileage is 12,665 miles. So that shows up in Trooper Paul's report. It shows up in the photographs, and it shows up as matching the mileage in the text stream data, both at triggers 1164 and triggers 1167. So that shows up in Trooper Paul's report. It shows up in the photographs, and it shows up as matching the mileage in the text stream data, both at triggers 1164 and triggers 1167.
When I saw this, I almost got into a car accident. I really did. I was freaking out. I wanted to pull the car over and live stream right then and there because this is monumental. Now, if the mileage is the same at 1164 and 1167, and this is definitive because the person that took the photo of the odometer reading is Trooper Joseph Paul himself. Without a shadow of a doubt, we hear from Judson Welcher that the car was in possession of the Massachusetts State Police at key cycle 1164, precisely as Joseph Paul presents in the first trial.
If you started your testing at 1164, then if the engine was turned on, thereby indicating initiating a key cycle, it had to get off the tow truck in Canton and be driven into the Sally Port. Did you ever see that video?
No.
Being driven in?
No.
Working our way backwards, here is key cycle 1163, when the car was driven off the tow truck and into the Sally Port.
If there was a video showing that the car was actually driven into the Sally Port, that would necessarily be a key cycle, correct?
Possibly.
Okay, so that would be key cycle 1163. My mistake, I was missing one, right?
Okay.
Before that, if the car was turned on and driven onto the flatbed to get to Canton, that would be key cycle 1162 in order, correct? We're going backward.
It's possible.
All right.
Here's the car at key cycle 1162, making a 3-point turn, driving the car onto the tow truck bed.
Before that, if the car was started and the car was driven from One Meadows Avenue to Karen Reed's parents' home in Dighton, that would be another key cycle, 1161, correct?
They're possible.
Here's the car at key cycle 1161 as William Reed and Karen's brother warm up the car to prepare to return to the family home in Dighton. Now, this is revolutionary because now we have definitive proof that once and for all, it is impossible that key cycle 1162 could have been Karen Reed driving her Lexus on the night of January 28th into the early morning hours of January 29th of 2022. It is not possible. Now, if you listen further into what we hear from scientist Judd Welcher, he explains that telematics data picks up sort of anomalies or oddities that occur in a car.
The text stream system was originally designed, according to Toyota, for maintenance issues. It seemed to come about around the same time Toyota was having problems with sudden accelerations or allegations of sudden accelerations. So the text stream data or vehicle control history will give you information when there's, for example, excessive acceleration or rapid shifting of the vehicles or rapid steering of the steering wheel. So the statements are that that's designed to help the maintenance people, if you come in with a problem with your vehicle, to diagnose what that problem is. It has a lot of utility in accident reconstruction because if you jam on the brakes before a crash, frequently the tech stream data will record the crash.
You mentioned Toyota a number of times. Could you share with us the relationship between Toyota and Lexus?
Yeah. Sorry, in my mind, they're the same thing. Toyota and Lexus, obviously a little different, but Lexus is basically made by Toyota.
And in the entire life of this vehicle, which really wasn't that long because it was a 2021 Lexus and this occurs at the beginning of 2022, there had only been 11 trigger events to that point. So something anomalous has to happen in how the driver is engaging with the car in order for it to begin to record these trigger events. That's what the purpose of a trigger event is, to show when you go to service your car or when there's a problem on the car, the person who is doing the servicing of your vehicle can upload the telematics data and see or help to diagnose what the problem is, right? That's the whole purpose of telematics. So now, the original theory, which was that if we were led to believe that Joseph Paul started his testing at key cycle 1164, if we simply work the equation backwards, it is impossible that key cycle 1162 is Karen Reed driving that Lexus. It is not possible. And now, if we go back to Hank Brennan's opening statements and we look at exactly what he's putting forth as the theory for how Karen Reed killed John O'Keefe.
If we look at the VCH data chart for the second event recorded during the key cycle 1162 provided by Trooper Paul, we might be able to find some answers. The top row of the chart under the red bar shows the time in seconds since the vehicle was started and only shows 10 seconds of data recorded for this event. The orange boxes in the row labeled shift position signal with a 1 indicate that the vehicle was moving forward for 3 seconds. The next box in the row is labeled 0 and indicates that the vehicle wasn't moving for 0.5 seconds. Then, the vehicle was in reverse for the remaining 6.5 seconds recorded by the event. The dark blue boxes indicate how hard the gas pedal was being pressed. In the last 3 seconds of the event, the gas pedal was pressed about 75% of the way down. This is what triggers the event to be recorded by the system.
She stopped, she put the Lexus into neutral, and she waited. And the facts and the science and data will tell you that despite the fact the argument was over, she then put the Lexus into reverse, put her foot on the gas pedal, and began to press, not 25%, not 50%, up to 75% acceleration. The Lexus tire spun backwards. She went backwards at least 70 feet.
The dark blue boxes indicate how hard the gas pedal was being pressed. In the last 3 seconds of the event, the gas pedal was pressed about 75% of the way down. This is what triggers the event to be recorded by the system. The light blue boxes represent the speed of the vehicle. The chart indicates the SUV was traveling over 20 miles per hour in reverse during the last 3 seconds of the recording. The car doesn't measure how far it traveled. It tracks how fast the wheels are spinning and uses that to interpret speed. If the SUV was stuck and the tires weren't able to get traction, they could spin pretty fast without actually moving the SUV. The SUV would have still recorded a speed based on how fast the tires spun. So, it is possible that the data could be explained if the SUV was stuck in the snow and the driver pressed the gas pedal hard to get unstuck. Let's take another look at the video of Karen Reed's SUV being loaded onto the flatbed, and we'll see. Watch the back tire when it's put in reverse. Do you see the snow being flung by the tire as it tries to get traction? It seems like we have a pretty good explanation for the event data.
And because we know that anomalous events are what trigger these trigger events, these recording events in the telematics, wouldn't you know it, there are a couple of important events that occur during not Karen Reed's use of the Lexus, but the tow truck driver's use of the Lexus. So what am I saying? The smoking gun, the data the data that Hank Brennan hung his entire case in chief on to prosecute Karen Reed for the murder of John O'Keefe are 100% undeniably events that occurred after the state took possession of Karen Reed's vehicle. You just can't make it up. But there is one thing I stumbled on in my investigation for this video that's quite interesting. Key cycle 1163 doesn't appear on any of these reports. What is that about?
It seems like we have a pretty good explanation for the event data, but there's one thing I haven't been able to figure out. Where did the 36 miles come from between the SUV being loaded onto the tow truck at Dighton and it being parked in the Canton PD Sallyport? I wonder if it can explain the SUV-shaped snow ring in the Sallyport as well.
Note, this would be the exact key cycle where the troopers in this case would be perhaps meeting somewhere off-site to exchange taillight pieces with Detective Lieutenant Brian Tully to bring to the scene at 34 Fairview. Thank you, Judson Welcher.
God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep.